अस्सलाम वालेकुम फ्रेंड, मेरा नाम है आसिफ अली। उम्मीद करता हूँ आप सब लोग खैरियत से होंगे। तो आज की वीडियो में बात करेंगे किस तरह बांग्लादेश ने इंडिया और पाकिस्तान को सरपास किया। 1971 में कौन नहीं जानता कि बांग्लादेश के हालात क्या थे। उस वक्त पाकिस्तान बांग्लादेश से 75% था, लेकिन कौन जानता था कि वो बांग्लादेश जिसको बास्केट केस बोला गया, बेसलेस बास्केट बोला गया, कि इस मुल्क को चलाने के लिए IMF से कर्जे लेने पड़ेंगे, इस मुल्क को आगे लेके जाना बहुत ज़्यादा मुश्किल है और ये मुल्क पाकिस्तान के साथ मिल जाएगा। लेकिन कोई नहीं जानता था कि बांग्लादेश एक दिन साबित कर देगा कि वो पाकिस्तान और इंडिया को भी पीछे छोड़ सकता है। और आज पाकिस्तान से बांग्लादेश 45 to 50% रिच है। तो बांग्लादेश ने इंडिया को भी पीछे छोड़ दिया है, पाकिस्तान को भी पीछे छोड़ दिया। देखते हैं इस वीडियो में कि बांग्लादेश ने किस तरह से ये किया और किस तरह से उसने अपनी इकोनॉमी को अपलिफ्ट किया, अपने लोगों को गुर्बत से निकाला। लेट्स स्टार्ट द वीडियो। 3, 2, 1 स्टार्ट।
Bangladesh might just be the most resilient country on the planet. Once the poorest part of British India, it became the most deprived part of Pakistan before experiencing the deadliest cyclone in human history. That was followed by a liberation war, famine, numerous political coups and assassinations, and devastating natural disasters.
The important thing is that we have developed our internal capability to cope with many of these disasters. Bangladesh had to do it for its own survival.
Famously referred to as a basket case in 1971 by US government officials, including Henry Kissinger, in per capita terms, it's now among the richest countries in South Asia, surpassing India in 2020. It's not so secret to economic success is what experts call RMG, ready-made garments.
Every country in the world started their industrial revolution with RMG, be it London, New York, Japan, Korea, China, and now Bangladesh.
The need to fill factory floors has made a positive impact on one group in particular, women. And that set Bangladesh apart from other Muslim majority countries as well as India.
This is also a component of the capitalist society that kind of promotes individualism, and that could be one reason that a large number of women came into work. They did not want to be chained as a domestic helping hand to any households.
But Bangladesh might be a victim of its own success. In 2026, the UN will upgrade it from least developed country status, but this will mean the loss of economic benefits. Along with lasting bias towards women, Islamic fundamentalist groups, and no real plans to move beyond low-end manufacturing, the rapid progress of Bangladesh could be at risk.
On August 15th, 1947, the great symbol of the British Empire came down for the last time, to be replaced by the banner of the new Indian government.
The partition of India created two dominions to separate Muslim and non-Muslim populations, India and West and East Pakistan, which included modern-day Bangladesh.
14 million people were displaced because they left their homes. Anywhere between 1 and 2 million people, Hindus, Muslims and Sikhs, they died. Muslims who had been murdered on the way, Hindus and Sikhs who had been murdered by Muslims. People of our generation, the older generation, has almost died out. So that's the very tragic story of partition.
For over 2 decades, the majority Bengali population in East Pakistan was ruled by a central government based in West Pakistan, which spent the majority of capital on its own development.
So the Bengali grievance was that Bengal was being deprived of its legitimate share in economic resources. In the mid-1960s, that came to a head through a demand for regional autonomy, which we call the 6-point program. We in Bangladesh called it our Magna Carta, because from the 6th point onward, we went to 1 point, which was independence.
But before obtaining independence, in 1970, the deadliest cyclone in human history took place, in which up to 500,000 people died.
There was no response from the Pakistan government, no measures toward rehabilitation, toward coming to the aid of those who had survived, coming to locate the bodies or calculate the damage that had been done.
This accelerated the call for independence, and during the first democratic election in Pakistan, the Awami League Party, led by Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, won a decisive majority.
Legally, I am the authority because people have voted to me. Now they are using their force. It is up to them now to decide what to do.
Not wanting Pakistan to be ruled from the east, the central government in West Pakistan took military action.
On the 25th of March, the Pakistan Army launched what has come to be known as Operation Searchlight. It's estimated that on the very first night, between 5,000 and 7,000 people were killed on the streets of Dhaka. And in the course of more than 9 months, the estimates put out by the government of Bangladesh is that 3 million people were killed.
The killings, which Bangladesh calls genocide, were followed by a liberation war between East and West Pakistan. 10 million refugees fled to India while the massacres continued, and hundreds of thousands died. It was India that came to the rescue.
An India-Bangladesh joint command was formed, and very briskly, very swiftly, they captured ever larger slices of territory in East Pakistan, and that was when the People's Republic of Bangladesh was born.
Although Bangladesh was newly independent, after years of turmoil, it was the second poorest nation in the world, and things were about to get worse.
Industry is at a halt. Paraffin needed for cooking and heating is very scarce, and huge queues form for any supply that becomes available.
In its first 4 years, the newly independent nation was plagued by mismanagement and food shortages that led to a disastrous famine in which an estimated 1.5 million people died.
But then the tragedy, again, another tragedy, Sheikh Mujib was assassinated by a group of junior military officers. He and most of his family were killed.
Despite political instability, coups and assassinations, the 80s saw rapid economic improvements.
There has been a sequence of reforms that has initiated the private sector-led growth in Bangladesh. You have to keep in mind that Bangladesh has started as a socialist country. It nationalized everything from banks to all kinds of factories, manufacturing and so on. The outcome was not very good, and the government realized it and slowly started going back to the market mechanism, allowed the private sector to come in, which is the most important thing.
At the same time, positive changes initiated by NGOs were embraced by the government, like BRAC, a non-profit created to help those in need after the Liberation War, and Grameen Bank, the so-called bank for the poor. It gives millions in small loans to the impoverished without requiring collateral. 97% of its borrowers are women.
Bangladesh being one of the poorest countries in the world, it was also a ground for experimentation for social development. This NGO sector, supported by the government and also international community. I must say that the donor community played a big role also in supporting the drive that was led by the government, and the result is that in a lot of social innovation, social engineering, Bangladesh has pioneered and established credible records for development, which is being experimented or applied in parts of Africa, Latin America, and other countries. This is something that we feel proud of.
Although foreign aid played a big role in the development of Bangladesh, accounting for up to 8% of their gross national income in the 70s, it's now less than 2%. Life expectancy has jumped from 47 to 73 years. Bangladesh's female literacy rate is higher than India's, while its infant mortality rate is lower.
Compare with the birth rate of a Muslim majority country, even compare it with India, we are better off. Our birth rate has come down. Family planning has been adapted at every family level in Bangladesh, more or less. And there is no taboo about it. There is no religious barrier against it. Why? Because of the NGO movement, because of the awareness, because of government's role in that. Also, donor support. USAID has played a very significant role in popularizing what I call family planning in Bangladesh. So we have to admit that international community's role, domestic effort, and the government all work together to bring about the changes. And that's why Bangladesh's population now is almost at the replacement level.
Another significant shift for Bangladesh was the birth of a new local industry. Inspired by the success of countries like Vietnam and China in exporting clothes abroad, Bangladesh began to build its own factories, creating a new entrepreneurial class.
It's the low-cost starting point because Bangladeshis didn't have capital. We are not a capital-rich country and also didn't have the rich upper class and so on and so forth. So most of them came from very ordinary middle-class background and became entrepreneurs, became self-made entrepreneurs. It started like a very small enterprise operation, and now they are big-time players and supplying globally.
I started the garment factory, very small garment factory in city centers. Now, of course, VRTX Group is one of the very renowned group. We have almost 15,000 workforce. I'm sure it is very surprising that we are designing product for the top brand in the world. Everything we do, that means not only the garment manufacturing, the entire process. We call ourselves end-to-end solution providers. We have 6-7 garment manufacturing plants. We produce roughly 3 million knit garments every month and more than 1.5 million woven shirts every month.
Today, the garment industry accounts for up to 80% of the country's total exports. Part of its success is due to government initiatives like the Export Development Fund. Created in 1989, it allows exporters to borrow at lower interest rates. And Bangladesh's status as an LDC or least developed country gives it tax-free access to European markets to boost trade and economic growth. Also, as China moves away from low-end manufacturing towards higher-end products like cars, Bangladesh has been able to benefit. But perhaps the biggest beneficiaries of the garment industry are women, who had previously been unable to make dependable salaries.
When this garment business started, somehow we able to attract this women or female workforce to our industry, and that can help significantly to improve our society. Just imagine, more than 5 million workforce, 3 million is a woman.
Average salaries for workers in the ready-made garment industry are double the country's minimum wage, which means that women can become financially independent.
In the rural areas, there were not that much employment available. So the women, they took off from the rural areas that no, they need to search for better employment. Another sociological thing is that the emancipation, that they could live by themselves. Even though their salary was quite meager, they also have their mind of their own. If they were working within someone's house, they did not have any vacation, no festival bonus given, no policies. At least in the garment sectors, gradually the policies came into place so they could get the bonus, the overtime, and health security and other issues. High rate of participation in Bangladesh could be correlated with the free education for girls. At the secondary level, free stipend is given. We have a very strong NGO-based communities and the civil society who actually looked into this and encouraged women's participation.
Since first serving as Prime Minister in 1996, Sheikh Hasina, daughter of the first elected President of Bangladesh, has also introduced laws to balance out the treatment of men and women.
When this Hasina Sarkar came into power, she herself took a lot of positive steps for women's empowerment, particularly involving women in income-generating activities, encouraging women to remain in the RMG sectors, and provided a lot of facilities like daycares. She actually was the first Prime Minister introduced the national policies for the advancement of women.
जी तो फ्रेंड, ये थी आज की वीडियो। जैसा कि आपने देखा कि उन्होंने वीडियो में स्टार्ट से बताया किस तरह बांग्लादेश बना और बांग्लादेश बनने के बाद किस किस तरह से बांग्लादेश ने अपने आप को ग्रो किया। तो इस एक वीडियो में उन्होंने बांग्लादेश की पूरी हिस्ट्री बता दी और बांग्लादेश की इकोनॉमी को किस तरह से गवर्नमेंट ने ऊपर उठाया, वो सब कुछ उन्होंने एक्सप्लेन किया। बांग्लादेश की गवर्नमेंट ने अपनी अच्छी पॉलिसियों की वजह से और इंटरनेशनल कम्युनिटी की मदद से और बांग्लादेश के लोगों की मदद से रेडीमेड गारमेंट्स को अपनी इकॉनमी को उठाने के लिए इस्तेमाल किया। आज बांग्लादेश के रेडीमेड गारमेंट्स फैक्ट्रीज़ में ज़्यादा औरतें काम करती हैं, तकरीबन 80% तक फ़ीमेल्स काम करती हैं। तो बांग्लादेश ने फ़ीमेल्स को भी अपलिफ्ट किया, जिससे इकॉनमी बैलेंस होती है। अगर किसी माशरे में फ़ीमेल्स काम नहीं करती तो उस माशरे की इकॉनमी पे बोझ आता है। पाकिस्तान और इंडिया में फ़ीमेल्स ज़्यादा काम नहीं करती और बांग्लादेश में फ़ीमेल्स के काम करने की जो शरह है वो बहुत ज़्यादा है। इस वजह से बांग्लादेश की इकॉनमी इस लेवल तक जा सकी। बांग्लादेश ने अपने मुल्क में गारमेंट्स सेक्टर के साथ साथ दूसरी इंडस्ट्री भी लगाई और आज दुनिया की आलमी मंडियों में बांग्लादेश का एक मुकाम है और बांग्लादेश को कदर की निगाह से जाना जाता है। बांग्लादेश लीस्ट डेवलप्ड कंट्री के स्टेटस की वजह से यूरोप में उसको टैक्स फ्री एक्सेस हासिल है, लेकिन आने वाले कुछ सालों में वो जो उनको LDC से निकाल दिया जाएगा और डेवलप कंट्रीज़ की उनको लिस्ट में शामिल कर दिया जाएगा। तो इससे बांग्लादेश को थोड़ा टैक्स देना पड़ेगा, लेकिन तब तक बांग्लादेश अपनी इतनी ग्रोथ कर चुका होगा कि बांग्लादेश के लिए वो कोई ख़ास इशू नहीं होने वाला। बांग्लादेश में भी साइक्लोन और फ्लड्स आए, इस टाइम पाकिस्तान में भी फ्लड आया, तो आप दुआ करें कि हम इस मुश्किल से निकल जाएं। बांग्लादेश ने भी इसी तरह से साइक्लोन फ्लड्स वगैरह को उनसे लड़ने के लिए अपना एक इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर बनाया बांग्लादेश के अंदर ही, जिस वजह से बांग्लादेश ने अपने लोगों की हिफाजत की और अपने मुल्क का जो इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर था उसको बचाया और आज बांग्लादेश साउथ एशिया की रिचेस्ट कंट्रीज़ में शामिल हो चुका है। और बांग्लादेश रशिया यूक्रेन की वॉर से पहले पहले दुनिया की फास्टेस्ट ग्रोइंग इकॉनमी बन चुका था। रशिया यूक्रेन की वॉर ने पूरी दुनिया की इकॉनमीज़ को डाउन किया, बांग्लादेश की इकॉनमी भी कुछ डाउन हुई है, लेकिन बांग्लादेश इस मुश्किल से भी निकल जाएगा और बांग्लादेश आने वाले सालों में और ज़्यादा ग्रो करेगा। गाइस, मुझे तो वीडियो बहुत अच्छी लगी, किस तरह बांग्लादेश उन्होंने बताया किन मुश्किलात में गुजरा 1971 के बाद, और 1980s में बांग्लादेश ने फिर उसके बाद पीछे मुड़ के नहीं देखा और आज बांग्लादेश पाकिस्तान से 45 to 50% रिच है, इंडिया से भी रिच है और आज बांग्लादेश का GDP पर कैपिटा भी ज़्यादा है। तो गाइस, वीडियो अच्छी लगी वीडियो को लाइक करें, चैनल पर न्यू है सब्सक्राइब करें, बेल आइकन हल्का सा प्रेस करें ताकि नेक्स्ट वीडियोस के अपडेट आप तक पहुंच सकें। अल्लाह हाफिज़।